know yourself, be yourself, show up as yourself, because that is where your power comes from. That is where your value comes from. And for me, it is where my joy has come from of life is never perfect. Are there frustrations? Yes. But my joy, my contentment, my peace comes from knowing myself, being myself, and showing up as myself. And as long as that's good enough for me, then I don't need to please any of the other 8 billion people on the planet. In fact, I'm better positioned to do that for the people that are close to me, that matter to me, because I know myself, I am myself, and I show up as myself.
Welcome to 99 Humans. My name is Jeff LaCosta, curious coach and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, striving to understand how little things generate big impact.
And I'm Nadia Carta, tech executive and lifestyle coach with a mission to transform lives and corporations by kindling hearts to generate a zeal for life.
Each week, we investigate stories about the human side of leadership to re-energize your spirit and help you become a stronger leader.
Because the reality is that leadership is messy, goofy, challenging, but always human.
Thanks for spending time with us today. Let's dive in.
Good morning, everybody. It's Friday, and like any Friday, we're here recording a new episode of 99 Humans. Today, I'm solo. Jeff is on a quest on something incredible that he's going to reveal next time. But I'm joined by one of the most amazing people and leaders out there, a dear friend. And so I'm very happy to welcome Nish on 99 Humans.
Thank you, Nadia, for having me on today. I've been looking forward to this.
Well, you and I have been talking about recording this for 4 years.
I know, and we finally made it happen. We needed an AI agent to help us maybe coordinate this and organize it. So what's AI doing? Why isn't it working on the real problems like this?
I mean, seriously, give me as many agendas as you can to manage my schedule. But you know what I say, Nish? When things happen, are divinely timed. And so today is a potent day. It's actually August 8th, a day for abundance. And so I want to believe you came on this show today for a reason.
I did. I came to have a great conversation, which I always do with you. And we just happened to hit record for today's conversation.
It's going to be great. So would love to understand, Nish, what are you up to these days? I follow you on social media. I've been reading some of your projects. Would love for our audience to learn a little bit more about you.
Sure. And thanks for that. Maybe I could step back for a second. I won't go into my whole history, but about 2 years ago, actually, I think it'll be 2 weeks from now, 2 years ago, I started what I call a blank canvas sabbatical. I wrapped up at a great company called Napkin, which was part of Kepler Group that I know you're familiar with, which is part of an even larger group called Q, filled with amazing people. But it was time for me to move on. And I think one of the things that was pushing me to move on as well is that ChatGPT had hit the November before. And I was one of those people that truly believed AI is going to change everything. I don't know how, but I wanted a blank canvas. And I felt like, I'm 53 now. And a couple of years ago, I guess I was 51 if my math is correct. And I was reaching that stage in my life where I was just like, I've been a CEO or a COO or, some sort of C person for a long time, mostly in startups and scale ups and things like that. And I wanted to have this blank canvas and redefine myself and go, what is next for me? Give myself the opportunity to really set my personal GPS to curiosity with no other obligations. So I started my blank canvas sabbatical. I then started I wanted to get back into content creation, like everybody else. I think that's the new midlife crisis. It's not a Porsche anymore. It's like start a podcast. So I started the Creative Ops podcast, which is for the community of creative operations professionals. I didn't know if anybody was going to listen, but I just did it for my own curiosity. And I'm delighted that there's people around the world that listen to it, both creative operations people, creative leaders, opened up so many amazing relationships and conversations. And then a little while later, I'd really started going down the AI rabbit hole, and I wanted to make it more tangible. So I then launched my second podcast, Prompting Humans. That one is really much more about, it's not about AI, because God knows we don't need another podcast just on AI. The world's filled with them. This is more about like the human questions, like what is the future we want to prompt? Because I think AI is amazing. I think it could be an exoskeleton for every human on the planet where it allows us to become superhuman. But I think a lot of the narrative right now is rooted entirely too much just in sort of the low-hanging productivity benefits. And we need to have like bigger conversations, bigger aspirations, and we need to paint with a much bigger imagination brushstroke. So that's what Prompting Humans is all about. And it's starting to bleed into sharing more of my own personal story, and some of the things I've experienced in life and what I've learned along the way. And, recently I decided to start an AI studio, and we're doing tons of great work to bring workshops to people. We're doing some consulting, starting to build a couple of products, but it's all rooted in our core mission of we want to help as many humans as possible. I want to help as many humans as possible thrive, as AI starts to become more and more capable and give us the capabilities for, I don't think it's the age of AI. I want it to be the age of human flourishing. I think that's the opportunity. And through my content, through the AI studio, that's what I want to be at the forefront of.
Wow. Nish, you literally shared so many avenues and so many things that I want to explore with you in the next, 40 minutes. There's one thing, though, that I want to step back for a second, because some of the conversations that I had with you were not the ones rooted in technology, but were those rooted in humanity, vulnerability. I know that you are a very spiritual person as well. And I remember you and I at lunch a few months back in New York, and you shared some of your life-changing moments. And, I've read your birthday letter, which made me emotional. At one point when I read the letter about your dog, I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful, the eulogy. So you are such a profound and connected individual, which at times is kind of difficult to find in tech. And, you and I also spoke about how being like us in this kind of a cold environments made of bytes and terabytes can be tough. So would love for you to share with our audience, what is your overall life approach and how did you arrive at this point?
So my life approach is, I've figured out for myself what my purpose of life is. Everyone's got to figure that out for themselves. And my purpose of life is, I sort of took that that story that's probably been like, maybe bastardized over time, but it's that story of Michelangelo when somebody once asked him, Michelangelo, how do you make these beautiful sculptures out of these hunks of rock? And he responded with, the sculpture was already there. I just got rid of the rubble. And to me, life is about sculpting myself. And over time, through the experiences I've had, and I'll touch on some of them, is that I've come to think of like, things aren't inherently good or bad, whatever happens to us. They are just experiences we're having. And my through line over time has become, I'm sculpting myself through these experiences I'm having. I'm discovering who I am, and I'm exposing the statue within is what I'm doing. And I'm not exposing that statue to be beautiful to others, to be enough for others, to be accepted by others. The only person that has to accept me, I have to be enough for, that I have to be beautiful to, is the person looking at me in the mirror in the morning. So that's the way I approach life. And did I get there easily? No, I didn't. It's the lessons I've learned through losing both of my parents unexpectedly at different times, but both in unexpected ways. And And I would say my best teacher has actually been my disability. So Nadia, you and I've, met each other in person many times. You know that I walk with a cane. I wear braces on both legs. I've got this motor neurological condition called Charcot-Marie-Tooth. So I describe it as inconvenient. It's not fatal. And lots of people are dealing with much harsher physical disabilities. But it has been my greatest teacher. And quite frankly, I can say with all truthfulness, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And in the moment, I realized I had it. And the doctor confirmed that I had this condition, that it's a genetic condition. So my mom had it. And when we were young, my brother, sister, and I got tested for it to see if we'd be predisposed to it. My brother and I came up negative. My sister came up positive. But then, tests aren't always right. So thankfully, neither of them got it. I got it in my mid-30s. And when it first set in, I was angry, I would expect anyone to be. But over time, it really allowed me to sculpt myself, to better understand myself, to understand more about the human experience, and really see the best sides of humanity. Like, I fall all the time. And initially when I used to fall, I used to be scared because I'm like, unless I have something to prop myself up on, I'm not going to be able to get back up. But over time, I learned that there's always going to be an everyday Superman or Superwoman who would come by and help me out. So I've seen the best sides of humanity through my disability as well.
It's so remarkable that you say this as being the best thing that happened to me. I mean, how many people out there must have just accepted an event like that with a lot of frustration and used it as a way to fold back in life and just commiserate themselves and complain. I mean, we've seen many people that live a miserable life for things that are way smaller than that. And I look at you and I hear you saying, this is the best thing that happened to me and is helping me sculpting myself. I mean, I hope you recognize that the way you face it is not the way many others would do it. And in itself, this makes you a beacon of light for others. Like, I'm sure that a lot of the people listening to this episode right now are thinking, wow, how is Nish doing in it all? And so I even wonder myself sometimes, where do you find the strength? Like, what gives you all of this purpose and drive?
I don't know if it's drive. I think it actually might be selfish because I didn't do it for anybody else. I didn't do it to, using your words, to be a beacon of light. And I don't think of myself that way. I did it for myself because there's always a choice. It's like, Stoic philosophers always talk about there's very little we actually control about the world we inhabit, like very little. What we do control is our mindset. It's the way we react to things. It's the way we carry ourselves. And I did initially have that anger, but I didn't want to be steeped in it. So I was really doing it for myself. Because we're all here for an astronomical blink of an eye. I didn't want to spend my blink being angry. I wanted to spend my blink enjoying this experience, this human experience, in whatever way was possible for me. And we all have different possibilities. I'll often say to people that, yes, I'm disabled. And it's obvious because stairs are my kryptonite. And I love it when there's a ramp going into a building. And I'll joke with people saying if they use the handicap door opener button, but they're not physically disabled, they have to pay me $25 because it was made for me. But it's, I believe that everybody on the planet is disabled. Mine is obvious because it's sort of rooted in our traditional view of disability. But I was in Africa one year, in Uganda specifically, with my brother back in 2013, 14. And I turned to him one day while we're walking through Kampala and I said, I feel more disabled. And he's a doctor. So he immediately went into diagnosis mode. Like, what's wrong? Like, did you like sleep incorrect? Like, what's going on with you? And I was like, it's the sidewalks. The sidewalks in Kampala are not done to code like we have here in North America. So here, when I'm walking on a sidewalk, it's flat. In Uganda, it could go from high to low to high to low, and so I felt more disabled. And in that moment, what I realized was disability is a function of circumstance. If I were born 3,000 years ago and had this disability, it would be fatal because the tiger would catch me and eat me. 300 years ago, I would starve because I wouldn't be able to work in the fields and harvest. 100 years ago, I wouldn't be able to provide for myself and my family because I couldn't work on the assembly lines. But today, my disability doesn't define me. It doesn't limit me because we live in a different world. If I were to lose total loss of my legs, my arms, anything else, I would still be valuable because somebody would go, well, does his brain still work and can he still speak? Great, roll him up on stage and tell him to start talking. And I realized with that, everybody has a disability because it's about circumstance. If somebody asked me and another person to run up a hill, I would be very disabled in that moment. But if me and that other person were asked at a conference with 2 minutes notice, get up on stage and deliver a 20-minute talk to an audience of 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 people with no prep time, that other person, that would be kryptonite to them, and I would be Superman.
What comes to mind when I listen to you with these points is perspective. I really like when you say it's about circumstances. And I add it's about circumstances and perspective because it's how you choose to look at that event and how you choose to look at your situation, at that situation. The story that you shared about Uganda, so powerful, and the stage speaking. And obviously, I don't want to go into the route of what is government doing to have better sideways and all that. It's not the purpose of today. I do think, though, that we are on the edge of kind of a revolution to make our circumstances for humanity better, hopefully for everybody else. And actually, your story made me think about, I was at CES last year. Was it last year? Yeah, I think it was last year. And I was touring the floors, and I toured ARP floor. I think, what is it called? What?
American Association of Retired People?
Yes, that one. Yes. And they were demonstrating how they were using artificial intelligence and robotics to basically help people at later stages in life, even 90 and on, to build a better life. Like, think about it. What you said, maybe in 30 years from now, people will have their robotics assisting them in walking better. I think the other day I saw this prototype of a wheelchair that also lifts, so that somebody that is sitting in a wheelchair, they can suddenly, walk and reach all those things. So personally, it's really exciting to me, the progress that we are doing in building a world where the circumstances are more inclusive to everybody so that we can all access our zone of genius, and use our talents, our gifts. I would love to understand, Nish, so you said that this was the best gift of your life and how this helped you. And clearly the profundity that unlocked in you is so admirable. I would love to understand how this helped you become a leader and the leader that you are today, and what your journey has been in bringing this in the corporations that you worked. Like, what was that experience?
So my view of leadership has evolved over time, which I think is a good thing. It should for anyone. And I think generally in society, we think of leaders as, they're the smartest or the strongest or the fastest. Like there is something about them where they're the absolute best at it. So naturally people would follow them. And I think our current view of leadership is sort of rooted in, I don't know, sort of sports metaphors in a way, right? Again, strength, speed, things like that. And I've been leaders in companies over time, primarily smaller and mid-sized companies. And I don't know if I've been a great leader. I think I've evolved as a leader over time. And what I've started to realize more and more over the last 10, 15 years is that leadership isn't about leading others. Leadership starts with leading yourself. And that's what the disability really unlocked for me, because I couldn't wait for somebody to come along and give me a magical, inspirational speech. It wasn't about reading the right poem or anything like that. It was about leading myself, accepting what is, and still moving forward. And I think when we learn to lead ourselves, that I think makes people attractive as leaders. And I think in the age that we're moving into, again, not to keep going back to AI, but I think the age we're moving into needs to be rooted in much more leadership that is born of self-awareness, of accountability to oneself, of comfort in one's own skin, and not needing to have all the answers. Because guess what? The machines are going to be better at coming up with the optimized answers. And what is going to be needed more than ever before is leadership of self, so that you can create the right conditions and model the right behavior for others to lead, and lead by example, not lead because you're the strongest or lead because you are the fastest or the smartest in the room. That I don't think that's what leadership is going to be about moving forward.
Well, as you know, I'm a big fan about investing in yourself and leading yourself in the first place. Yet I find that it's so challenging for others. I've been on this quest about teaching people how to love themselves, for example, which I know it's so cheesy and sometimes people cringe. And I'm like, if you're not loving yourself, what are you here to do on this planet? How do you expect others individuals to have respect of you and love you if not even you can say a words of appreciation in your mirror as an affirmation to yourself? It's such a fine line, and I don't get it. And it's so interesting. I found a video of myself 10 years ago, and I was looking at it and I was like, wow, how beautiful and strong I was. But then I remembered that the unhealed me 10 years ago was criticizing that person. So we're always ready to criticize ourselves in the present moment. There's something that is fundamentally broken into how we see ourselves. And I don't know if it's about how kids are growing up, what are the narratives, the society. But for leaders, it's really difficult to lead themselves in the first place. So I actually have an intellectual challenge for you. Sure. Because, I believe that one of the most powerful things about AI is to have these personal companions that can help us resonate on our life moments, our life challenges, and literally acting as a sparring partner. I find the conversational abilities with those LLMs to be very interesting when you are perhaps unpacking a problem or you want to get a perspective and all of it. So what's your vision for how AI can help leaders lead themselves better?
I think it can be. So I think we're in a gray zone with AI as almost like therapist in a way, right? I think I like using AI to surface blind spots. that I might have. But one of the things I've been much more deliberate about over the last year, especially as the narrative around like AI as a therapist, AI as a friend has grown, is um, I want the friction of still having the human to human, messy, sometimes ugly conversations to work through. To work through my blind spots, to work through the friction that I might be having with an individual, whether it's my girlfriend or a friend or a family member. And I think, to me, friction is the new optimization in this age where we have access to these machines that can seem very human like, but we have to keep reminding ourselves they're not human. And again, we're all here for an astronomical blink of an eye to have a human experience. And one of the things I love AI. I think it is, I am so grateful to be alive at this moment and to live through this time because I do believe we are living through the next renaissance and we're just at the start of it. But I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that this is a human experience and we should not be outsourcing our human experience to the machines. We still need to connect with each other. We need to communicate, collaborate. And it's ugly, it's messy. Like machines are meant to be optimized because they are not having an experience. We are having an experience. So we need to remind ourselves, like, to have the friction of that. So, you know, from a leadership point of view, getting back to your question, I think it's good to use as a sparring partner. I think it's good to use in prepping for a difficult conversation you might be about to have with a team member or board member or anything like that. I love using it for role playing, almost like simulation. You could watch the Monday morning football highlights before the Sunday night game even happened, so to speak. Like it's a time machine, basically, if you want it to be. But for myself, I draw the line at I don't use it to avoid the messy human conversations. I use it to help me identify blind spots. I will give it transcripts and ask it to interrogate me and help me understand what I might not be seeing and understanding about myself sometimes in terms of my tone. Am I giving enough like time and space for others to speak? Things like that. In that way, I think it's valuable, but we cannot lose sight of the fact that we're all here for a human experience and not for a machine experience.
I love that. And what you said about friction, having conversations that lead to frictions is hard. It's,
Yeah.
and I mean, what I find hard is not the friction in itself, is the emotion associated with it. I had a feedback conversation with someone actually 3 days ago, and I kept repeating myself. I was like, I'm not saying that you're not performing. I was like, I'm not saying that you're in danger. I'm just referring to a moment in time where I think you could have been more effective. And this generated a whole reaction. It's really hard to go back to having the friction without emotion.
I don't think we can have the friction without the emotion. I think the emotion is needed. I think if the emotion isn't there, then maybe that's a machine experience. Like we're emotional beings. Humans are not logical. We are emotion machines. And I think we should embrace that and welcome it. And that's what I was earlier when we're talking about like leadership. And when I was sharing, I think this age is going to require different sort of leadership because the era of leadership that we've had for decades on end now was the right type of leadership we needed for being able to scale the society that we all have the privilege of inhabiting. But And we all ended up doing a lot more machine work, including leaders. We've all heard sort of that derogatory term like spreadsheet leaders or spreadsheet jockeys, right? Where it's not about like every leader talks about, we want to build a great culture where people first and things like that. But then you see the actions that are taken. And it's not because people are inherently evil or bad. It's because that's what the system asked of them. And that gets reflected in their leadership style. But these are also humans. And what this age is going to require, I believe, if the machines are going to do the machine work and they're going to be able to automate and optimize all the machine work that we've been doing for decades, I think of it as we've just been getting the seats ready and keeping them warm until the machines were grown up enough to come in and do that work. Leadership now is about true human leadership. It's going to be about getting into those conversations where the emotion is the friction, but that is where the opportunity is. It's almost like you and I come from like backgrounds of building products. And what do we look for when we're building products? We look for the friction. What is hurting somebody's like process or workflow or their ability to achieve their outcomes? It is that friction that we are looking for. That is gold to product builders. And I believe what human leaders need to start looking for now is where is that emotional friction? Because it's going to be about helping people become their best selves and not just talking about it, not just having a pithy couple of slides during the town hall meeting. It's actually talking about it, doing it, embodying it, living it.
Yeah. So let's imagine for a minute that you are 15 years younger and that you are in this age of AI that we are right now. So you're like at a different moment in your career. You're not on a sabbatical. That's a luxury, Nish.
Right. I know.
So let's imagine that you're grounding in a corporation with your responsibility, your 9 to 5, you're, let's say, at the beginning of your management journey. And what are 3 things that your future Nish could recommend to that younger Nish?
Is this from a work perspective or a life perspective?
Let's do 3 work and 3 life.
Oh, wow. 6 recommendations in total. Well, I'll use one of the answers I gave to a young person I recently met. So I did a fireside chat at Ancestry.com. I was invited in by their director of international marketing operations. And I think a good chunk of their global marketing team showed up for this fireside chat. And it was an excellent conversation, just talking about AI, its implications, and how people might think about navigating it. So the question I received from this person relatively young in their career, which is, let's say, the proxy for 35-year-old me, is what would your advice be to me from a career point of view? And my advice was as simple and complex as this statement. It's know yourself, be yourself, show up as yourself. And I said that because we are moving into an age where all the old rules and Lego blocks of how the world was organized from a work perspective are being torn apart and quickly dissolving. So you have to know yourself and be rooted in your own confidence to be able to navigate what is here and what is ahead. Because it is with that confidence, you'll be able to grab on to opportunities. And I believe there are seismic opportunities. I'm 53, as I've said. I've never seen opportunities like this, left, right, and center. And you have to show up as yourself, because what AI is doing is that it is making the ability to copy and commoditize everything instant, and it is trending towards a cost of 0. So scale, speed, efficiency are all the things we're all after in the world of business for decades on end. AI is making that increasingly more accessible and cheaper. Yeah. And if everyone has those same capabilities, to be able to copy and commoditize, that means we either live in a sea of gray or we're going to look for something to create differentiation, because that's where value comes from. That's where margin comes from. And that's why I think it's a human fueled future, because what is the only thing that will remain that is unique? And sure, maybe there's like distribution and data and things like that, but what will be unique that is available? It's humans. And that's why you need to show up as yourself and be yourself. And that's hard because we live in a world where we all live in this sort of like world of all these algorithms of what you need to be good enough on LinkedIn, to be good enough on Instagram, to be good enough on Facebook. But now it's about showing up as you. And you talk a lot about this, which I love. And you're one of my models in terms of how to be in the world. So it would be that advice I would give to my 35-year-old self. And it's the same advice I give to lots of people that are especially younger in their careers. And I think it's the same advice I would give on the personal front as well, is know yourself, be yourself, show up as yourself, because that is where your power comes from. That is where your value comes from. And for me, it is where my joy has come from. Of life is never perfect. Are there frustrations? Yes. But my joy, my contentment, my peace comes from knowing myself, being myself, and showing up as myself. And as long as that's good enough for me, then I don't need to please any of the other 8 billion people on the planet. In fact, I'm better positioned to do that for the people that are close to me, that matter to me, because I know myself, I am myself, and I show up as myself.
I think you need to do stickers of this thing. So be yourself, know yourself, show up as yourself. I would add, love yourself.
Yes, I think doing those 3 things allows you to love yourself. It's not even something you have to think about. It just naturally happens. And we often can't see ourselves sometimes. I have many people tell me that there is just a calmness and a confidence about me that they just find appealing. And I don't see it because I don't live outside of myself, but they just find it appealing. And I've thought a lot about that because many people have said the same thing. And I think it's as simple and, again, as complex as know yourself, be yourself, show up as yourself. And when you do that, it's so much easier than Frankensteining yourself into trying to be something that is enough for someone else or some platform or some algorithm.
Yeah, like I say, a washed up version of somebody else. Your energy is very grounding, Nick. I think you vibrate at a frequency that is like grounding, like rooting people and situations to earth. So that's I mean, to me, that I live up in the air often, it's definitely magnetic. So we are approaching the close, and I do have 2 last questions that I want to hear your thoughts on. So number 1 is, what is your word of advice, right? So you said it, your mantra. People that are listening to you right now are people from, a variety of life stages, variety of businesses. We have entrepreneurs. Our audience in those years is being widening. What is the deepest wisdom that you can leave them with to face the leadership role at this time? And if it is the 3 mantra, it can be, but I want to give you the chance to, include anything else that comes to mind.
I think it is those 3 things I mentioned. If it's for leaders specifically, I would also highly recommend, you've just got to be your most human self. You've got to acknowledge that we are here for an astronomical blink of an eye, and don't get so caught up in, I have to try and live up to a certain standard. And I don't mean to say that's an excuse not to strive. I strive constantly. And I don't think I've ever been this busy in my career, but I'm having a blast doing it because it's things that I take joy in doing. I want to make these things happen. I want to bring these things into existence. I think you really need to ask yourself, like, why are you doing what you're doing? And what do you want to be doing? The world is filled with possibilities. And I think way too many people are playing here's a question I would encourage all your listeners to ask themselves. Are they playing to their inner algorithm or are they playing to the external algorithms? And I think most human beings are playing to the external algorithms. One of the first arguments my girlfriend, Gloria, and I had, we've been in a relationship for 4 years, is we had our first argument over something silly, and I won't go into it, but then we ended up going out for breakfast a couple of days later. And I told her something that floored her. And I said, I am my number one priority. It's not you. It's not anybody else. I am my number one priority because that's the only way I can show up as myself. And an extension of that is that I play to my inner algorithm. I am tempted by, and yes, I can get enamored by and seduced by the external algorithms. Oh, look how many people liked my LinkedIn post, or look at how many people invited me to speak at their conference and things like that. But it's got to be rooted in my inner algorithm. And I think way too many leaders are rooted in external algorithms. And again, that is a system that we all built, agree to, and incentivize. I believe that system is starting to dissolve. And we need a different type of leadership.
You might as well share the most important point ever. Like, I love when you say I am the most important priority. It's, put your oxygen mask first and then everything else will flow. I'm sure your girlfriend, once she understood what you meant, found.
She did. Yeah. Yeah, and the amazing thing is she didn't immediately understand it. She was sort of floored by it because that's not the traditional narrative of the world we live in, right? We're like, oh, but the person I'm in a relationship with or married to, they're the most important person. And it's like, no, you've got to be the most important person to you, because if you're not, you can't show up for others the way that you want to. And it's been amazing to see her transformation over the last few years, because she now does that for herself, which I absolutely love. It's been amazing to see that.
I mean, I love it. Not to derail, but I did explain these concepts to my daughters the other day. And my older one was like, Mommy, are you saying that we are not the most important things in your life? And I said, after me, you are.
Right.
My husband had to explain them what I meant, because she was like, oh, like she took it personally. And then I think eventually she understood it, because like you said, I want them to grow up with this idea that first they need to take care of themselves and then everything else will come. So I find it beautiful. Yeah, please.
Sorry, can I offer one piece of like tactical
Yes.
leadership advice? Just because we are living in this current zeitgeist of AI is going to change everything. Way too many leaders are saying AI. They can spell it without buying a vowel from Vanna White, but too few leaders are actually modeling the behavior they need to be able to effectively lead their organization. So for any leader who is talking about AI and expecting their team to transform, but they're not modeling the behavior, I'm sorry, but if you're not going to model the behavior, you're also not speaking the new language of value and business, and your team is already starting to tune you out. So you need to recapture them as an audience by modeling the behavior.
Modeling behavior is the most important. Speaking of which, where can people find you to continue to be inspired and how to model this behavior? I know that you have a lot of resources out there that you can actually be very helpful on this point. Would love to include any of these in the show notes so that people can find their way to you?
So the best single place to find me is tomorrowwithnish.com. So all my content is published there, or you could follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Well, I wish for anybody listening to this to do that, because I'm always very inspired by your content. And listen, Nish, continue be unstoppable. I'm excited to see what else you're going to create in this AI era. And we need more like you, because, as you say, in this blink of a moment that we're on this planet, we need to surround yourselves with people that are uplifting and inspiring like you are.
Well, right back at you. And thank you very much for the conversation today.
Oh, thank you. And everybody, thank you for listening today. If you like this episode and you feel called, please reshare it. Give us 5 stars. Jeff, you are missed. And you all know there were only a few episodes from the end. So stay tuned as we share these last humans towards our 99. Have a good day. Bye.